This website, mail.com, makes $1.2 million a year. And this one, findagrave.com, a website that allows you to find where dead presidents are buried. It's making 100K in revenue with 1.4 million visitors every single month. And this one, carpart.com, makes $3.6 million a month. Yep, you heard that right. And these are what we call online directories. And this kind of broke my brain in how powerful this business model is. No inventories, no employees, just a directory of information. It is a boring business, a business that nobody's talking about, but it keeps generating cash flow every single month. And as you guys saw just now, these websites look very dated. Looks like they were built in the 90s, yet they're still making tens of thousands of dollars or even millions. And online directories is a very high leverage business model, very low maintenance, and I was actually surprised and how much time is required to update these websites. And there's so many ways that you can make money from this. Now, I brought in my friend Frey, who's built his own cash flowing directories. He knows a lot about this space. He literally lives and breathes directories. And he's going to walk us through exactly how this works. So listen in to our chat. And by the end of this video, you'll learn what an online directory actually is, the different ways they make money, and some of the examples he's going to be showing are pretty wild, how you can build one using AI, and some really cool hacks for getting your first traffic. So let's dive in. Hey Frey, first of all, welcome to the channel. I love what you're building with online directories. I think many people who's watching this video, they want to build a business, they can work remotely that doesn't require a lot of capital and something that can generate income somewhat passively, right? And it sounds like online directories kind of tick all the boxes. So we're going to dive deep into all this with you. But first of all, for somebody who's never heard of online directories, can you maybe break it down in simple terms?
Yeah, I always like to call a directory a list because that's kind of what it is. It's just a list of information. But I'll answer it in a way where I think a lot of people think of directories as something that's so 1999. And they're like, why would this be useful in 2020 when there's Google Maps and there's Yelp and all these stuff? My definition of what a successful directory does nowadays is it helps guide people through decision making, essentially. And it can be anything from where to pick food, like Yelp, or it could be something more high stakes, like finding an accountant or finding an attorney, finding a daycare spot. There's literally directories making millions of dollars in all three of those niches that I talked about.
Okay, so I know you have a lot of websites to show us, but before we jump into those specific examples, can you first talk about what are the common ways to make money from a directory?
So there are, I would say, two main ways that you can monetize, at least the most common, like the 80/20. The first one is through ads. So you can think of Google AdSense. There's other ad networks like Ezoic or Mediavine. That's kind of what I like. You don't really earn as much, but it's pretty much as close as you get to passive income. And then you have lead generation. This could be featured listings like the ones that we just saw. You could sell leads, you know, basically per lead. This is pretty popular in really high ticket niches where you're selling a service for $50,000 or $100,000. Those are the two main ones, but I personally sell digital products on my first directory. You can do affiliate, you can do directory as top of the funnel into a SaaS product. You can make it whatever you like. And that's kind of the beauty of directories.
Right. And have you seen any examples of directories that are surprisingly profitable? Like, something that sounds dumb, but actually super profitable?
Yeah, absolutely. I love finding directories that people have never heard of. And I'll show you this one that I've been obsessed with lately. It's called Seek Experts. I am not in the legal field, but this is a directory around expert witnesses, which apparently law firms go out and hire people to be expert witnesses, and they can kind of sway the case. This particular directory charges $655 just for someone to make a listing, essentially. So if I'm just going to click on anything here. Barbara, Thomas, Catherine, all these people. In fact, look at this scroll bar. All these people, they have over 2,000 expert witnesses. Quick math tells me they made $1.3 million, a little bit over just from the listings themselves. That's not even including these featured listings where they charge even more. And then they also have like online courses that they sell for like $1,500, and they're very, very popular based on what I've researched and read on Reddit. So yeah, this is probably $1 to $2 million a year directory. If we look up the actual traffic, oh, that was weird. it actually doesn't get that much traffic. It gets 13,000 monthly visitors, which for some people might be a lot, but if you go to put it in perspective, yellowpages.com gets 2 million monthly visitors still. This is a small potato compared to a dinosaur of a directory. This is just one example. I have probably dozens of them in my head. Another one that I've been pretty obsessed with that I've been kind of showing people lately is party.com. This is a funeral home directory. And if you kind of look at their listings, something that's really genius is that they actually included the pricing. And that's really hard to get. It's quite unscalable. You have to call and email all these places. This directory does around $3 million a year. And they basically take a percentage cut of any transaction that happens, or they sell leads. It's always some form of lead generation with these higher earning directories.
Wow, I'm sure that many of us have probably came across a website like this, but most of us don't know what goes on behind the scenes. A simple directory like this is making millions of dollars without even selling a single product. Now, you mentioned SaaS previously. I've seen some directories use software as a primary way to make money because, number one, it's recurring revenue. Number two, it's now really easy to use AI to vibe code an app. And number three, you get a higher multiple when you sell the business because it is software. Do you see people do this often?
Oh, yeah. I see it all the time. Actually, most of the multi-million dollar directories that I find have SaaS products. And I can also share my screen and bring up a couple. So this is a directory around retreats around the world. And their directory crushes it. It's a multi-million dollar directory. I think it's actually also around $3 million a year. But they also sell a software. I think it's right here. And it's essentially a management software for people who are running retreats, like retreat business owners. So this is pretty lucrative, and they monetize by taking a percentage of sales. This is a really carparts.com. Carpart.com. This is a very ugly but incredibly successful directory. And they have a lot of software. And I almost forgot where to even find it, to be honest. But there are I think there's something like a dozen different car-related SaaS products on the back end of this, and that's their B2B play. This is just a directory to help people find different car parts, depending on your make and model. But I've done a deep dive on this website, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it does like $10 million plus. Don't quote me on that, but definitely like in the several millions for a website like this.
Well, they really need to update the design.
I know, right? But maybe that's
But I mean,
just
why change
the
it? You're making
brand.
$10 million a year.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's fascinating. I think if you have the capacity, then using a directory as a top of funnel into an existing business, whether it's a SaaS or a service-based business, that is the most profitable way you can go, like full stop.
Yeah, yeah. I was just Googling carpart.com actually make $45 million a year, which is insane.
Oh, wow. So I was
Yeah.
lowballing it.
Hey guys, quick break to talk about something that's actually super important for any directory that you're building, getting the right domain name. But here's the frustrating part. Finding a good domain name is really hard these days. That's why I recommend using .online domains, who's kindly sponsoring this video. That's trusted by over 3.5 million businesses worldwide. And here's what I like about using this domain extension. You can actually get the exact name that you want. Now, here's something that most people don't realize. Having online right in your domain actually helps with your SEO, because the word online is searched over 500 million times monthly. That means your website becomes more discoverable just from the domain itself. And you know how important this is to get traffic to your directory. Now, there are already 3 million websites taking advantage of this. They've grabbed their .online domain name while still available, while everybody else is stuck finding something decent with their .com domain. And today, since I'm partnering with .online domains for this video, I've got a special deal for you guys. You can get your online domain for just 99 cents for your first year using my code JasonLee. So you just need to enter that code here at checkout and you'll get that domain for 99 cents. The link is down in the description, and thanks again .online for sponsoring this video. You made really good money from your directories. Do you mind sharing with us, like, a couple of examples of what you built, what kind of revenue they generate? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I'm happy to share everything except the actual domains because
Right.
it always leads to copycats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've made good money, not life-changing money. It's what I call lunch money or pay your rent money, right? So the last almost 3 years, I've made around $2,500 to $3,000 a month, 99% margin. And pretty much passive just from my directories. Yeah, I've had some one-offs, but I don't really count that. If I were to average it out, it's probably around $2,500, $3,000.
That's great, man. And I mean, I know most people that are listening to this, it doesn't sound like life-changing money, but to be fair, you recently built these directories. It is a highly passive business, and it looks to me like a very high margin business as well. And speaking of margins, how big are the margins here, and how much time are you spending to manage these websites?
Kind of 99% margins. The last time I touched my directories, just to give you an idea, was like 6 months ago. And I'm talking like went to WordPress, changed some things in the back end. Yeah, it's pretty passive. I do spend a lot of time up front though to optimize the on-page SEO. Of course, there's like a whole process where you have to go and scrape data, enrich the data, make the directory inherently more valuable than Google Maps. And then after that, you have to build backlinks, and there's a lot that comes with it in the very beginning. But once you do rank one for certain niches, it's pretty sticky. And that's what my experience has been like.
I noticed that you made a tweet. A digital product that is sitting in one of my directories made me $950 in passive income this month. Usually does $500 a month. Lifetime closer to 10K. You kind of built this in July and it's still consistently bringing you passive income, right? This is a true definition of passive income. What would be your recommendation for somebody who's building a digital product as an income source for a directory? Maybe a couple of tips that you can share.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to people every day who are building directories and monetization is top of mind. That digital product idea came from some random Reddit user. So if anyone's familiar with how I build directories, I have a kind of step-by-step process. And once you do finish the part where you build out your website directory, I always post on Reddit just for an initial traffic boost, but mainly to see if the market accepts my directory. Like, is it valuable? Does anyone even care? And then one comment was like, I posted a Reddit post for this particular directory. All the comments were really positive, and one of them, basically posted, "Hey, it would be really great to see this information." I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of work to get." I mean, I'm talking like 100 hours just to go and get that information because it's it requires me to call every single store, and it was very unscalable. But I did it. And that was actually almost 2 years ago since I built that digital product. As far as tips, I would say it's ironic, but don't think about monetization too much in the beginning and just focus on a value first approach. If you are creating something valuable and people think so too, then they will chime in and tell you what you should build. And that's the beautiful thing about directories. It's like whether you post on Reddit in the beginning or you naturally grow through just organic SEO, which is what I do, people will just email you out of the blue and be like, "Hey, you should do this." And that alone could be a digital product idea. It's really difficult to just kind of sit and think, what kind of digital products could I sell with this niche? Because every niche is different. Every niche has its own kind of ideal monetization strategy behind it. So I try to think about it simplistically and just think, okay, is this an ad play, like a passive play, or is this like a lead gen play? Everything else is just a cherry on top. If it's a digital product, it's a cherry on top.
Now, for someone who's new to this, right, they want to build a directory, what would be your recommended step number one in finding directory ideas?
Actually, the first step would probably be to decide what you want. Like I said, I talk to a lot of people who build directories, and you got to decide if you are willing to to earn less but have it more passive, or earn more and be way more active, which is lead generation, right? If you're trying to go for something that makes $10,000 plus a month, I would point you to lead generation. And so you should essentially look through the lens of a high ticket business service that you can create a directory around, and then eventually get the lead information and then sell that to a local business. And that's kind of the idea. Um, so that's actually step one. As far as like finding ideas, I always say that there's kind of one of the frameworks that I really like is anything that helps people save time, save money, or make money. Those are generally going to be pretty good niches. I'm a pretty big data guy, so I use Ahrefs a lot. And so I love to sort of look for ideas for a kind of a passive directory for keywords that get around 10 to 40,000 monthly searches. Because with a passive kind of display ad directory, you need a lot of volume, right? Like my first directory gets like 70,000 monthly visitors. There's honestly like so many ways to find ideas from like personal problems. I think another good one where I get a lot of ideas is just think about your life and the major chapters. Maybe you're graduating, you're getting married, you're moving to a new city, getting a new job. What are all the little micro decisions that you've made? And a really dumb example is I just moved and I got these 5-gallon water jugs, didn't know where to find a water refill station, was looking all over Google Maps. There was no good way to find it. And I found a directory that was getting 15,000 monthly visitors for helping people find water refill stations. I'm like, okay, it probably compete and make that better and then just own that directory.
Let's say you've validated this idea, and you want to start building, right? Can you walk us through maybe at a high level the steps that you need to build a directory, and maybe what tools would you recommend for each of the steps here?
Yeah, I always start with the idea. So I spend probably the most amount of time validating the idea through Reddit and Google Maps, as I mentioned, the data in Ahrefs. After that, you can go ahead and start scraping your data. A lot of people jump to the website, but in my opinion, I like to get the data first. And it's kind of broken down into 3 mini steps where you scrape the data, you clean the data, and then you enrich the data. So yeah, that enrichment part is super important because if you don't do that, you're no different than Google Maps. Um, so that is kind of a task in itself. After that, you can move on to the third step, which is creating the website directory. You can choose WordPress. You can vibe code it, which I've been doing recently. Um,
Right. Can you go back to the part where you said enrich the data? What do you mean by this?
Yeah, I can give you an example here. As far as data enrichment, using parting.com as an example, this pricing feature is exactly, what I'm talking about when it comes to really valuable data enrichment. Essentially, I break it down into 2 different types of info, right? You have what you need to know, name, address, phone number, and then you have what you want to know. And what you want to know is stuff that takes a lot of time if someone were to go on Google Maps, sift through all the profiles, and it's like very difficult to find. So the fact that this is okay, maybe it's just pricing to some people, but actually it's incredibly impressive and it's very, very helpful. That's kind of the role of data enrichment. You're kind of making a listing so valuable that they don't really need to go elsewhere to find information. Everything is right here on your directory. And your job is to research what people want to know from a niche like this and then go and find that information and provide it.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, you mentioned Hrefs, right, to find ideas. Is there any specific signals or metrics that you look at to validate whether this is viable or not when you're doing this research?
Yeah, I would say I use a combination of Google Maps, Ahrefs, and just plain old Google. All of them serve very important but different purposes. For example, with Google, I always look for a bounty directory, something that's already successful. And the reason I do that is because it proves the idea that directories can make it to the front page of Google and that it's getting a lot of search traffic. You just need to make it better. and you need to establish more trust and authority with Google. With Ahrefs, I kind of mentioned it, but like for me personally, the types of niches I build, 10 to 40,000 monthly searches. Um, I think that's like not a hard rule. A lot of people think that's very strict, but I would say the reason I do that is because you will probably hit the $1,000 a month passive income mark if you can get 30 to 40,000 monthly visitors. So that's why I like to look in that range. And then Google Maps helps tell you whether or not it's your niche has what I call fragmented search. What I mean by that is Google Maps is like pretty bad at helping you find certain things, like specific things. If anyone's listening and wants to try it out, you can type in liquidation stores in Google Maps. And what you'll see is liquidation stores, but also 99-cent stores, thrift stores. And it's not very helpful for someone who's just looking for a liquidation store. And that happens all the time, actually, with Google Maps. And that's a good sign. If there's fragmentation, that means people are probably spending a lot of time having to go through every single, Google My Business profile, finding what they want. Yeah, that's just my approach. I kind of like the data.
Okay, so you mentioned something about Reddit, posting on Reddit. Is this your main way to get traffic to your new directory, or is there any other strategies?
That's just the initial strategy, and to get some initial feedback. But yeah, organic SEO it's probably bad that I'm so over reliant on it, but that's my main strategy. So I kind of already know when I build in a niche that I can get a lot of traffic if I SEO optimize it because I've done a lot of what we talked about. I found a bounty directory, an already successful one. I have a game plan in place to improve upon what's successful. I know how to go and get backlinks and establish trust with Google. So that's really the strategy. And we can go into that if you'd like, but it's all SEO.
Roughly speaking, I think you mentioned about how many visits you need to get to make a certain amount of money. Is there like a number that we can think about? How much we can expect to make with a certain number of traffic, or does that also depend on the niche?
It's hugely dependent on the niche. There's someone I know, Felipe, who has a focus group directory, and I think he got 1 or 2 thousand monthly visitors, and I think he made $400 or $500 just from AdSense. That's quite high. To put it in perspective, my thrifting directory might earn $1,800 from 60,000 monthly visitors. So, I mean, I'm not good at quick math, but the proportions are off here. Clearly, the focus group one wins per 1,000 visitors. Gaming is notoriously the lowest paying niche as far as AdSense goes, or any kind of display ads. Of course, finance is notoriously very lucrative, even from a display ad standpoint. So, yeah, totally dependent on the niche.
We like to think about this as a somewhat passive business once it starts running. But realistically, from your experience running your directories, can you really leave it and let it run, or do you need to actively maintain it? Like, how much time do you actually spend per week on your directories?
Ooh, a week is tough. I would say I spend, I used to say 15 minutes a month, but it's probably closer to 30 minutes every 3 months or something like that. It's pretty
Oh, wow.
passive.
Wow,
I
30
will say,
minutes.
yeah, I don't spend a lot of time at
Wow.
all. And so, yeah, it's been extremely resilient against Google's core updates, which if anyone knows or is familiar with SEO, that's kind of been the biggest threat. I'll add one thing, which is the only thing that I do is every 6 months or so, I'll refresh the content. It's actually such an underrated tip. But if you notice your traffic going down, the first thing that you should try, in my opinion, is just turn the content. And what I mean by that is literally copy and paste your content. You can give it to ChatGPT and just say, rewrite this. Keep the
Wow.
fundamental
Okay.
message, but just rewrite it. And it's fresh content. And that literally has recovered my entire website one of the months, like a year or two ago, where it dropped. So that's all I do every 6 months.
Like hearing you say that it takes about 30 minutes in 3 months, you can technically build like 10 of these, right? Build a very sustainable, maybe across different niches so you can diversify your risk a little bit more. Is that something that you are planning to do as well?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I launched 2 directories in the last, I think, 2 months or 3 months. And they're in totally random niches. Everything from I have directories in comic stores to appliance stores to plasma donation. It's so random because I'm pretty data focused. So it's not like I need to have a personal passion for it. That's viable. I would say that it's one of those strategies that it sounds a lot easier than it is, because once you go through the process, you'll know it's a lengthy process. If I could build all the niches, I think I have probably 100 really solid vetted niches in my kind of personal vault. If I could build them all, I would, but it's time consuming to do SEO essentially and build backlinks, all that stuff. So
And have you ever thought about, selling your directories one day? Is that a long-term play that you're aiming for? I guess my question is this business like more of a cash flow play or something that you can sell down the road for a nice exit?
yeah, it's funny because I was just answering some people on acquire.com because I have my first directory listed for $60,000. But I mean, to answer your question, I go back and forth. I think I want just a ton of small cash flowing entities personally. That's just because I'm a big cash flow guy. But yeah, you can absolutely sell them. They won't get as good multiples as SaaS. I think you can expect, I think 2.5x your annual EBITDA is pretty reasonable for a directory acquisition. So yeah, like my trailing 12 months for my first directory is like 24K. So 60,000 is roughly 2.5x, I think, maybe a little bit less. But yeah, you can totally do it. I've gotten cash offers for my first directory. I think about a year ago, 3 people offered me 40K. One guy offered me 48K, and I turned them all down. So yeah, you can sell them if you want.
Yeah. So this has been really great, man. Thanks for being so generous in sharing all of this with us. I think our audience here will get a ton of value from this. Where can people follow you if they want to learn more to get deeper into this?
Yeah, I talk about directories on YouTube, just Frey Chu. I'm on X, again, just Frey Chu. And if you do want to learn more about directories and meet other people building directories, I have a free community, has over 2,600 members. And if you do want, I have a private community as well for more serious community builders there. And that's at shipyourdirectory.com.
All right, man. I wish you all the best, and I hope you'll come back again next time.
I appreciate it, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.